Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another achievement guide and walkthrough for Kronos Battle Worlds. Today we're looking at mission 11, and this mission, just like all the others before it, has 3 achievements associated with it. One for completing the primary objectives, one for completing the secondary objectives, and one for completing the mission without requesting reinforcements. In this mission, the primary objectives, there are 3 of them. You have to capture a temple that's in the north of the map, and that's in the middle of the north of the map. Then there are 2 bases, one to the northeast and one to the northwest. You also have to capture the headquarters of each of those bases. When you accomplish all 3 of those objectives, the mission will end right away. There are no bonus features or anything else that unlocks after capturing them, no reinforcements you have to defeat. Just get those 3 buildings under your control and you win the mission. Secondary objectives, there are none, once again, for this mission. So as long as you can complete the primary objectives, capture those 3 buildings, then you'll be all set and you'll earn all 3 achievements for this mission. So how do you go about it? Well, in this mission, the 2 bases on the northeast and the northwest are actually owned by 2 different factions, and they're fighting over control of the temple. You start with no buildings, just a small mobile force to the southeast and another small mobile force to the southwest. What you want to do is advance both of those guys up to the north and to the center of the map, and there's a little mini depot base there that you need to take out. Use your forces, be cautious with your units, and take out the forces there and capture those buildings in that base. That base has 3 depots and a light factory, and all of them produce units, resources. So sometimes it's tough to get resources in a map because they don't generate or spawn or anything. But in this mission, those 4 buildings altogether will each produce 5 resources per turn. So they pump out 20 resources total per turn, and that means you can really put some units together. Every 2 turns, you can build a new unit at that light factory. So you do have a renewable resource for your units, so make good use of that. One thing you'll get when you capture the light factory is a mule transport. So you can take the mule and drive it around the 3 depots, collect all the resources into the mule, put the mule in your light factory, and drop the resources in there to produce your units. Now, one of the most important things that you can do, I should have said this at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to say it now. One of the most important things you can do is bring along a Medusa veteran unit. You get to bring 1 heavy type unit, and I truly recommend the Medusa for this reason. In this map, one of the new units that you get introduced to is called the Hacker, and you can produce them in the light factory. And what they do is if they attack an enemy unit, they take it over. You get control of that enemy unit on your next turn. You don't get to take it over and then use it, but you take it over, its turns are used up, and then the next time you have a turn, that unit is under your control. So it's a great combo with the Medusa. You can roll your Medusa in, stun a big, heavy, valuable unit, one of the big Praetorian tanks or a Goliath tank, stun it with your Medusa, and then move up your hacker to capture it. The hackers are extremely vulnerable. They have 10 hit points, so if anything shoots them, they will immediately die, but they can cloak. So they can move and then cloak, and as long as they're not spotted in between that cloak and the next time they get to move, as long as they're close enough to the enemy unit, they'll be able to move, capture that unit, and then it's yours. So that's the key to this mission. Finding opportunities to capture heavy units on the enemy team, because you can't really build your own until later on in the mission. So I was probably able to capture 5 or 6 tanks from the enemy at times of opportunity. So anytime that there's a tank on the enemy team, you want to have the goal of capturing it with a hacker unit and adding it to your army. So once you've captured that central base, then what I would do, don't do what I do in the video. In the video, I pushed straight up north. I ended up at the temple, and that is just a cluster of enemy tanks from the left and from the right converging, trying to fight over the temple. Stay out of there. Let them throw their units against each other, waste their big heavy units. If you're in the middle, they're just going to crash into you from both sides. Instead, what I would do, as soon as you capture that little mini base, go directly to the east. And there's a little frozen lake, and you'll come in under a little ridge line, and there'll be a little hill, a little path up a hill that leads to an enemy emplacement. And it's pretty well defended, but you can break through it if you're smart, if you use your units the way you've been using them throughout the missions, and if you apply the hacker unit smartly as well. You'll be able to do this. So you'll be able to break in through that southern border on the east border of the map, and then you're inside that base. Then you can just kind of push in through, capture everything along the way, and you'll have control of then a heavy factory as well as another light factory and the headquarters building that you'll take over, and some other depots to give you some extra resources as well. So once you've done that, then I would recommend pumping out a couple more heavy tanks. You could make the Praetorian tanks in that heavy factory, push your entire army to the west from the headquarters building. If you go west and a little bit south, that's where the temple is. At this point, there'll just be one army pretty much that's there. You can crush them, and then stay to the north of the temple as you do this. Come across, take the temple, and then continue to the west, again, staying north of the temple, and you'll run into the last enemy base up there. And if you stay to the north, you'll avoid a lot of enemy units that are down to the southwest that you don't need to kill. They're going to stay there. If you don't get too close, they won't engage you. And as long as you then take over that last headquarters building, you'll have all three. You'll complete the primary objectives, and you'll complete the mission. So that's it. That's what you need to do for this one. It took a while for me. This was almost a 5-hour mission. I did some things that were silly, that took a lot of time, that got off track. If you apply the use of the Medusa and the hacker units, and you go through the path that I laid out, you should be able to do this much more efficiently than I did. So hopefully this helps you out. If it did, feel free to leave a like for the video. And as always, feel free to subscribe to Meat City Gaming for future content. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.